This right here don't work. This don't.
This works.
Come on, man. Let's give it a hand.
Thank y'all for having me. Give you the on the week, obviously. How I got demonized was I never shared my testimony except in Sunday school one Sunday, but I grew up in the projects, Lovely Village projects, down the street from Houston Hospital. It's a few miles away. You know, it's like a mile and a half away from Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. I grew up there from the age of 5 to 11. Well, it was just a bad neighborhood. It wasn't meant for kids. There was gunshots every night. When I was a kid, I would do my homework at school so I could come home and watch at least 2 hours of TV before I had to go to bed, because we all slept in the same bed, just so my mom knew we were all safe. And
There were 5 kids, right?
yeah, there were 5 of us. I had I had 3 other siblings. I'm the second youngest, but we all slept in the same king size bed. Like, we all just squeezed in there just so my mom knew we were all safe. Because there were gunshots every night, there's drugs everywhere. Even the police, like, if there was a call, they would patrol. They would sit somewhere for 5 minutes and then just leave, not really do anything about the situation. So it was just bad, and my mom, she really cared about our safety, so we weren't even allowed to go outside and play. Like, whether she was watching us or not, like, we weren't allowed to go outside the house. Like, our safety, she felt like our safety was guaranteed inside that apartment, so that's where we stayed. At school, since I wasn't able to go outside, I lacked a lot of socialization that the other kids got, because they got to go outside, they got to play and solve their own problems as kids, but I didn't get that. The only time I got to socialize was at school for 8 hours, and then at Sunday at church if we went. And I just felt rejected because I didn't have the same conversation with kids, because I didn't play the PlayStation that they had. I didn't get to play with the toys they had. I didn't get to watch the TV shows that they had. We had basic cable, and the only thing that I really watched was the PBS Kids, just the things that came on after school. I would eat dinner while I'm watching TV. That way I could multitask and I could at least do something before bed. And so I felt rejected during that time. And as I got older, realizing that I was socially awkward, I just didn't even try to socialize, because I just felt weird. People would judge me, and I couldn't relate. So I just stayed away from that, just out of fear of being rejected, as I was with a kid. Even my brothers and sisters, I felt rejected at one point, because I was a pretty smart kid. I applied myself. I made the straight A's all the way up until 7th grade. And every time report cards came out or progress reports came out, my mom would be like, this is what Maliq did. Why can't you do that? Why can't you make good grades like Maliq? And they would think that I thought that I was better than them, so that they would hate me. They would say things about me, like sometimes I would just play by myself because I couldn't play with them. And I just felt shunned and isolated and alone, and I just felt rejected. And then I got to high school, and I never had money, and I couldn't always go to places that my friends went, so that was another level of rejection. And how I really got demonized was as I graduated high school, I was trying to join the military. Like, I didn't want to be like my brothers and sisters. Like, I didn't think I was better than them, but I didn't want to be like them. So, in my family, the mark was just graduate high school. If you graduate high school, you've done all right, I guess, in life. And I didn't want to do that, so I planned to go to college, and I knew that we didn't have the money for me to go to college, so I sought scholarships, and even the scholarships that I had wasn't enough to go to even the school that I thought was the worst one out of all the schools I got accepted to. And so I decided to join the military. In that process of joining the military, they realized, my father's signature wasn't on my birth certificate, so I either had to get that signature or get it notarized. And I began to panic. I got angry at my dad because he was never part of my life. I heard stories about it, but I've never seen him face to face, even to this day. And I remember feeling this anger, like, he's not even part of my life, but yet he still found a way to ruin it. And now I can't even join the military, now I can't pay for college, now my life's gonna suck just like everybody else's. And I had panic. I reached out to him on Facebook, I asked my mom what his name was, I looked up everybody, and I found the one that fit his description the most, and I reached out to him, and we got to talking, and he was like, man, I never knew you were born, like, it's not my fault, like, I didn't know you were born, like, I would never neglect my responsibility. And anyway, like, I ended up getting a letter notarized saying that, my father's never part of my life, so of course the signature wasn't going to be on there. And so I joined the military, I had a date scheduled to do a basic training and all that. Well, it wasn't set in stone because they looked through my medical records and found that I had asthma as a kid. So that was hindering me, so they had to look through that to determine whether I was fit to join the military or not. But when I joined high school, not when I joined high school. While I was in high school, as it got closer to graduation, this was 2020, so COVID was going rampant. 2019, I went on Christmas break, and in 2020, we didn't go back to school. So graduation, at first we were going to have one, which we had like a little live graduation where they just showed you a picture and your diploma, and that was it. But then we got the news that we were going to have graduation, and my stepfather, who actually got me in the church, who was actually the most godly man I had in my life, he loved me, he got me in church, he taught me the Bible even though I didn't want to hear it. He would pray for me, he would anoint me, he would encourage me, and I was young, so I didn't really pay attention to it, I didn't really want to hear it. Especially because I felt like it didn't apply to my life at that time. And I ended up going behind his back, and they were only giving 4 tickets for graduation for each person. And I ended up going behind his back, and I invited my mom, my biological dad, and two of my older friends to my graduation. And my dad, we were talking at that time, I kept inviting him. I was excited to see him. I was excited to meet him. I was like excited to just like learn some stuff like about our lineage, our family history and all that. And then as I'm sitting in my chair waiting to see him in the stands, the excitement was heightened, just anticipating him being there. And then he did. At some point, I just accepted he wasn't coming. And then after graduation, I was down. I was like, man, I really hate he couldn't be here. And then the rejection hit when I found out to my mom that 2 days before graduation, he had already left to go to another state to go on a job site to work. And it just made me so mad because just to think about how many times throughout the year do you have to go work versus how many times in your life does your child graduate high school? And I just kept thinking to myself, why was I not enough for him to just show up, at least for 5 minutes and just meet me? And so I carried that anger around, and I even projected that anger onto my stepdad, who loved me. And he would encourage me. He would be like, out of all my biological children, you're not my child. You're my favorite. I love you. You're gonna do great things, and I'm so proud of you. And because of that anger that I felt from my dad, the rejection I felt from my dad, I rejected him. I rejected his love. I rejected his affection. I didn't like male affection at that point. I didn't hug my own brother. I would hug my friends. Even if you were crying and you were a man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you feel bad, but I'm not hugging you. I don't want anything about it. And so I moved out of the house. I tried to. My whole life, I learned the right way to do things because I saw people do it the wrong way. And that's how I learned from it. And after I got angry at my dad, I got angry at my dad, I moved out of the house, I got a roommate, and, I was just, instead of following his way, I followed my way. I tried to comfort myself with alcohol and nicotine. When I went to basic training, you know, I thought of my mom, but I just thought about my dad and the anger. And even though it was 6 months, like, part of me just didn't even want to leave Fort Benning because I knew that back home I would be able to sit in my room and just think about all the anger and I didn't want to anymore. And so after I got basic training, I separated from my stepfather. I stopped talking to him as much. I stopped coming by the house as much. And he began to get sick, you know, he had kidney failure, and he was just going downhill. And I was just him going in and out of the hospital. He was on dialysis at home, so I was just him going in and out of the hospital. And this one time he was in the hospital, it was there for longer than a day, and I was like, oh, well, maybe let's just keep him for a week and he'll be out. They kept him for 2.5 weeks, and I was like, oh, well, you know, he'll be coming out any day. Then it became a month, then it became 2 months. Did that whole time, I never checked on him, I never called him, I never told him I loved him, even when he told me he loved me. I would ask my mom how he was doing, but I never checked on him myself. And I abandoned him, I deserted him. Through my anger, I said some insults to him, and I just said bad things about him, to his face, behind his back. And then he passed away. And I got the call, and I went up there and I visited the room. And when I walked in that room, I don't know how to explain it other than when I walked in the room, I just felt the death that had happened in that room. Like I just felt the emptiness of like souls. Like I just felt like the room was being empty. Like you know, you walk in the room with a dead body, it just felt different. And I came in agreement with the enemy that because this church lady that went to our church, she told my mom, you know, you did your part. You were here. You loved them. You took care of them. Nobody asked you to. You weren't obligated to, but you were here. You took care of them. You loved them. You showed that you loved them because you were here. And me and my mom, I heard them like, I didn't do any of that. And the enemy was whispering in my ear the whole time, you know, if that's how you treat the people you love, then why do you love other people? And why should anybody love you? And I went home, I couldn't even see the road while I was driving because I was just crying the whole time. I was just crying. Like I had never cried that much in my life, and I felt so bad in myself. Like I didn't even feel like I should deserve to be called a human being. I isolated myself from everybody, even my mom. I'm a big mama's boy, but I separated from my mom. I separated from my girlfriend at the time, my roommates, and they're always, you know, saying like, hey, we understand what you're going through, we're here for you, but they were always supply me with alcohol, and I would just drown my feelings in alcohol. I never wanted to process how I felt. I just wanted to drink until I couldn't even think about what was bothering me in the first place. And I just drunk, and I would chain smoke these disposable vapes, like they're like 19 puffs in one vape, and I would go through that in maybe 2 days. I became a slave to my to my addiction. I would go to work. To get up, to have the motivation to go to work, I would drink. To have to be able to go to bed, I would drink. Throughout the day, sometimes I would have a water bottle with alcohol in it, drinking at work just to get me through the day. Sometimes I would take my eyes off the road because I couldn't find my vape. Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night because I heard my vape fall under my pillow. I would pick it up. Sometimes I would be late for work because I was trying to find my vape. And
Been there.
And so I was trying to use all this counterfeit comfort to fulfill myself. The effects of my demonization was I always wanted to be alone. I felt worthless. I didn't want to be on anybody ever. Like my roommates, they would try to comfort me. They would come in my room and be like, "Hey, we're here for you." But they're the same people who was buying me alcohol, was buying me nicotine, and I was underage at this point. Even when I didn't want to drink, when I went in the refrigerator, there was beer in there. There was always White Claw. There was always something with alcohol in it. I just felt worthless, and I felt that I just needed to get everybody away from me because I was afraid that, you know, if someone talked to me, they would get to know me. If they got to know me, they would like me. If they like me, they would love me. If they love me, then I would end up hurting them. And I didn't want that to happen to anybody else. So I felt rejected, and so I rejected everybody else, and I wanted to be alone. The ugly truth of my deliverance was I knew that I was one moment of surrender away from being free the whole time, but I wasn't ready to talk about it. I wasn't ready to surrender. I just felt, I felt like I wasn't even worthy to pray to God. Like I felt like I wasn't even worthy to just ask for help. Like I knew what I had done. I knew like how it made me feel, but I just felt like there's no way He was going to forgive me for this. Like He died on the cross for all of our sins, but this sin, there's no forgiveness for this. There's no turning back. Like I might as well just be depressed for the rest of my life because there's no turning back from this. And then life after deliverance, you know, my eyes were open to a lot of things. Like my eyes were open to the way that God showed to me throughout my whole life. I was only ever addicted to porn, nicotine, and alcohol. But there's other things that I could have, should have, maybe would have been addicted to if it wasn't for the Lord having His hand in my life. At one point while I was young, my mom, you know, we never had money. Sometimes I don't even know how she paid rent, but I could see that the Lord always sheltered me because there would be gangbangers and drug dealers in the neighborhood, and I knew who they were. Like I would see them, like I would witness like them doing drug deals. And, you know, I knew my mom had never had money. Sometimes she would stress, sometimes she would cry. And at one point, I did look up to those drug dealers and gangbangers because I knew, like, you know, maybe they're not doing the right thing, but, you know, they have money. I bet their mom's not crying right now. I bet their mom's not plucking her eyebrows because she don't have money to feed us, you know. There were some times we didn't go. Well, sometimes we went without eating, but because of the Lord, He also provided. We never went a full week without eating. People got shot, people died, people got robbed, and we were never one of those people. And even I can see like how the Lord was speaking to me. I was at Ron's house one day, and I went through this notebook, and I wrote down some dreams, and I looked back at those dreams, and like I could understand what God was saying in those dreams. Like one of my dreams. At this one church, I would do like gospel miming. It's like praise dancing, but for men. But one day I had a dream that I was getting ready for rehearsal, and I went in the sanctuary. There's nobody there, so I went to the bathroom, and I walked in on a conversation between the devil and the demon, and all I heard was, "Go get him and bring him to me." And that demon got off his knees and headed toward me, and I could see that the Lord was already warning me, like, "Hey, something's coming your way." And I had another dream where it was about these two female lions. They were only chasing me. They were only coming after me. Like the one would be sniffing the ground, and the other one would have its head up, looking around for me, like scouting for me. And even though there's other people like where I was, they would only come and seek me. And later, the Lord revealed to me that was guilt and shame, that I was bound by those two because of the way I felt. And then they had one more dream. Well, one of the dreams was a vision, but I wrote it down anyway. It was a vision that I was driving a white car, and I couldn't see what was behind me. I couldn't see what was in front of me. And I was driving down this, I don't know where I was, but I was just driving down this road that curved. And I could see that there were, on the side of the road, there were signs, they were yellow. And I know that yellow, the color yellow represents caution. And I would just drive down this road with these curves, and I couldn't see what was on the other side until I got to it. And the Lord revealed to me that, you know, be careful of the road that I'm headed down because, you know, I knew that, you know, I should go to church on Sunday, but I wasn't ready to talk about it. I wasn't ready to deal with it. And I knew, like, how to get help. I knew where it was. I knew that Jesus was going to provide. He was going to protect me. He was going to get me through anything. And the last thing I want to say before I sit down is I'll share my testimony with some people at work, but I don't share my testimony for their sympathy. I share it to tell them about His sovereignty. How He always protected me, how He always guided me, how He was always there for me, how He loved me so much that He was willing to fight on my behalf. Even He saw the best in me when I couldn't see the best in myself.
Come on.
And, yeah, that's all.
Praise the Lord. Just the Holy Spirit leads me. Anybody here any questions for me?
Does it feel good to not have all that guilt and shame, brother?
Yeah, it feels great, man. First time I got deliverance, man, I stood up and it was my first time walking in my own body. I felt that.